Hi, I'm Martha Valdez, and today we're going to discuss the acceptable use policy. As a student, you're given this packet in the beginning of the year, and it contains a paper that has signatures, and it says acceptable use policy on there. And sometimes you just bring it back signed, but you don't even read it. You need to always read what you sign. You don't know what you're signing. What if you're signing your life away? That's not good. So make sure you always read it. So in order for you to have internet access, you need to make sure that you bring this back to school signed, and that way you can, on the system, they switch on a little code that allows you to have internet access. So once you bring it back, if you haven't brought it back yet, make sure you pick a slip up at the textbook office, bring it back, have it signed by both your parents. It takes about 24 hours for it to reset the system so you can be able to access that. So what is in this document? Why should I know what's in here? And how does that even affect me? I just signed it and give it to you. This affects you because you can get privileges revoked, and you can face criminal charges if they deem it necessary, or just revoke your privileges of internet access for the whole year, maybe for all the years throughout your high school. So you need to be careful with that. So some of the things that it contains on there, or one of the obligations and responsibilities you need to make sure you have and understand, is that it applies to all technology. So it applies to the school computers, to the Chromebooks, to any devices that you're using for the school. It also applies to the bring it your own devices. So that includes your cell phones, your iPads, your any kind of device that you have, handheld device that you use. If you're using Wi-Fi on it, it applies to all of those. So you need to make sure you understand that. And let's define what are some of the basic rules. On here it says that there's 8 rules. Okay, your first rule: make sure you're accessing appropriate material. What does that mean? Are you looking for information for your research paper? Okay, so that's probably going to be okay. Or are you looking for things that you shouldn't be looking for? If it's things that you're questioning and you are trying to hide from your teacher, you're probably not supposed to be looking for that. So that could be one reason you get it revoked. Definitely not cyberbullying. Any kind of cyberbullying or bullying online, whether it's to a teacher or to another student, towards another student, you will get privileges revoked. So make sure you understand that. Sometimes your friends forget their passwords, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna log you on. Don't do that, because you're sharing information, and anything they do, you're liable for that. Not only that, you're not supposed to be sharing your passwords and your information, so you need to make sure you get access to that yourself first. You also want to make sure you're not disrupting the technology. So if you're impeding it by trying to install or connect your phone to charge, you're removing some of the wires for the mouse or for the keyboard because you want to charge your phone, that's impeding access. So you can't be doing that. Installing software onto any school computer, that's not acceptable. You want to make sure you don't do that. What is software? So let's say a lot of you get the Chromebooks and you try to look for music places. So you're trying to download that. That would be software. So you want to make sure you don't download any of that. You don't want to hack the systems. Anytime you hack the system, you're putting yourself in danger of being in trouble and being pursued by the law. So you want to make sure you're careful with that. You're not doing anything unethical. So what does that mean? Well, do I want to be, looking up people's information? Do I want to be sharing this picture of, somebody else kissing or something? You don't want to be sharing that information. That's going to get you in a position where you can get in trouble. So just make sure, think about it. If it were to happen to me, how would I feel? Don't do it. Simple as that. Bring your own devices. That's where we cover your cell phones. A lot of you want to be on Wi-Fi. That way you have access to our system, to Synergy, to ParentView. You need to be careful with that, because if you're using the school Wi-Fi, we're also capable, and the district's able to say, hey, I want to see what's on there. So you want to make sure you're using it appropriately and understand that. What happens if that does happen? Well, you want to make sure you report it to a staff member immediately. So let your teacher know. Once you let your teacher know, she can then forward that information, relay that information. Like in my case, I'll relay it to Ms. Stevenson or Mr. Evans, and they'll, go about it that way. So that could revoke your privileges. So make sure you just understand that. One of the main things I think children look over, or you guys look over as students, is a SIPA Act. What's a SIPA Act? It's the Children's Internet Protection Act. And that covers and discusses proper procedures that you should follow as a student, and that as a staff we will teach you. So being able to avoid plagiarism. So we don't want, which is why we don't want you always going into websites copying and pasting information. That's plagiarism. Illegally downloading information. So when you're trying to find music and you're trying to install it into your phones or your iPods or any other musical device, that's where you get in trouble. Copyright infringement. So when you're trying to use material not for school purposes, that's where you probably are gonna come in trouble with that. And some of the students don't realize it, but when you're sharing your school papers or reports, that's peer-to-peer file sharing, you're infringing upon that act. Okay, again, what happens? Well, you're held liable for that, for whatever it does happen if you're sharing that. So you don't want to make sure you don't get in trouble for that, because I said earlier, there's very likely capability you get your privileges revoked, or very highly that, or possible that you could be prosecuted by the law. So you want to make sure you're careful. So that's pretty much everything that's in the Child Protection Act, and that's in the whole acceptable use policy. This is the final document, and there's 3 different places that you will see that need signatures. The first one is your signature. So you want to make sure you sign, read that little notice saying that you understand, and that's what we've covered. That's what I covered here. And the next section is for your parents to sign. Okay. Some students bring this back without this having signed. This portion discusses how school can use your pictures, or anytime they have school functions and you're in the picture somehow, or anything that involves technology, you're in it, that they can use those for school purposes. If you don't want that, you need to make sure you Chris, I don't want it, but still needs to be signed. You still have to sign it. So all 3 sections need to be signed. If you don't mind using your pictures and whatever school might need using technology from you, then don't mark that box, okay? So you want to make sure you understand what's going on before you sign something. Like I said, you don't want to sign your life away. You want to make sure you understand what's going on. So that's the school acceptable use policy. That's the information regarding internet usage and at what point you get revoked or not revoked privileges. So hopefully that'll help you understand a little bit more and what the purpose of why your teachers and staff members make you sign and bring this back. All right, thanks.